The gymnasium fell silent, except for the sharp crack that echoed off the walls, a sound that would haunt Riverside High for years to come. 28 students watched in frozen horror as their new English teacher, Miss Chen, touched her reddening cheek where Derek Morrison's hand had just connected. But it wasn't fear in her eyes. It was something far more terrifying to those who knew what to look for. Perfect, crystalline calm. Sarah Mitchell had been teaching for exactly 3 days when it happened. She'd left her corporate law career in Chicago to return to her hometown, hoping to make a difference in the struggling school system where she'd once been a student herself. At 32, with her wire-rimmed glasses and cardigans, she looked more like someone's favorite librarian than someone who could change the trajectory of an entire community. She certainly didn't look like someone who'd spent 15 years mastering Krav Maga and earning a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under one of the discipline's most decorated masters. Derek Morrison ruled Riverside High through intimidation. At 17 and 200 pounds of misplaced rage, he'd perfected the art of making teachers quit before winter break. His father owned the largest construction company in town, which meant Derek believed himself untouchable. He'd already sent 2 substitute teachers home in tears, and rumor had it the principal was too afraid of the Morrison family's influence to intervene effectively. "What are you going to do about it?" Derek sneered, his voice dripping with contempt as Miss Chen stood perfectly still, her hand slowly lowering from her face. His 3 followers, Jake, Marcus, and Tony, laughed on cue, though something in the new teacher's expression made the sound die quickly in their throats. Sarah took a slow breath, her years of training teaching her that the first response should never be reaction, but choice. She could see it all playing out. She could have him on the ground in 3 seconds, his arm twisted in a submission hold that would have him crying for mercy. The muscle memory was there, tingling in her fingertips. But that wasn't why she'd come home. "I'm going to teach you," she said quietly, her voice carrying across the dead-silent gym. "Not just English. Something more important." Derek's face twisted with confusion, then rage. He'd expected fear or anger, or authority figures rushing to escort him to the principal's office. Instead, this small woman with kind eyes was looking at him like he mattered. It infuriated him. "Derek," she continued, taking a step forward instead of away, "I know your mother left 3 years ago. I know your father works 16-hour days and comes home too tired to see you. I know you feel invisible, and anger is the only thing that makes you feel real." The gym erupted in whispers. No teacher had ever spoken to Derek like this, with knowledge, with compassion, without fear. "You don't know anything about me," Derek shouted, but his voice cracked slightly, his fist clenched at his side. "I know more than you think," Sarah said softly. "I know because I taught your mother. Emily Morrison was one of my best friends in high school before I moved away. She used to talk about having a son someday, about what kind of person she hoped he'd become. And I know she'd be heartbroken to see what pain has turned you into." Something shifted. In Derek's eyes, something, vulnerable and young beneath all that, practiced cruelty. For a moment, Sarah thought she'd reached him. Then his face hardened again, and he lunged forward, his arm swinging in a wide arc aimed at her face. What happened next took less than 2 seconds, but felt like an eternity to everyone watching. Sarah moved like water, flowing around Derek's punch with a grace that seemed impossible. She didn't strike him, didn't hurt him. Instead, she redirected his momentum, guiding him gently but firmly to the ground in a controlled movement that left him sitting on the gymnasium floor, completely unharmed but utterly shocked. She'd barely seemed to touch him. "That," she said calmly, extending her hand to help him up, "is called ukemi. It's the art of falling safely, of moving with force instead of against it. It's also a metaphor for life." Derek stared at her hand, trembling. No one had ever treated his violence with anything but violence or fear. Slowly, uncertainly, he took it, and she pulled him to his feet with surprising strength. "I could have hurt you just now," Sarah continued, her voice gentle but firm. "I have the training, but strength isn't about what you can destroy, Derek. It's about what you can protect, what you can build, what you can heal. Why didn't you?" Derek's voice was barely a whisper. "Hit me back?" "Because you're not my enemy," Sarah said. "You're my student. And more importantly, you're hurting. Hurting people hurt people, Derek. But healing people? They heal people. The silence in the gymnasium was absolute. Even Derek's friends stood frozen, watching their leader's eyes fill with tears. He'd probably been holding back for years. "I'm sorry," Derek choked out, the words seeming to tear from somewhere deep inside him. "I'm so sorry. I don't know how to stop being angry." Sarah's own eyes glistened behind her glasses. "That's okay. That's what I'm here to teach you. Not just you. All of you." She looked around at the assembled students, many of whom were wiping their own eyes. "Life is going to hit you hard. All of you. It's going to knock you down in ways that are unfair and painful. I can't prevent that, but I can teach you how to fall, how to redirect that force, and how to stand back up with grace." Over the following weeks, something remarkable happened at Riverside High. Sarah started an after-school martial arts program. But it wasn't about fighting. She taught students about discipline, respect, and self-control, about channeling anger into purpose, about protecting the vulnerable instead of exploiting them. Derek became her most dedicated student. The young man who'd once terrorized the school became its unlikely guardian, stepping in when he saw bullying, using his size to shield rather than harm. He started talking to a counselor Sarah helped him connect with. His grades improved. Most importantly, the rage that had consumed him began to transform into something powerful and positive. Jake, Marcus, and Tony followed Derek's lead, each finding their own path toward redemption. The four boys who'd once been the school's greatest fear became its greatest assets, mentoring younger students and creating a culture of mutual respect. 6 months after that day in the gymnasium, Derek stood before the school assembly to receive an award for community service. As Sarah watched from the audience, he looked down at her and mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." But Sarah knew the truth. She hadn't saved Derek with her martial arts skills. She'd saved him with something far more powerful. The refusal to see him as an enemy, the courage to see his pain beneath his violence, and the patience to believe he could become something better. That night, as Sarah graded papers in her small apartment, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Derek's father. "I don't know what you did, but I have my son back. Thank you for not giving up on him." Sarah smiled, remembering her own teacher's words from years ago. "The strongest warriors are not those who always win, but those who know when winning means helping your opponent stand up." She'd returned to Riverside to make a difference, never imagining it would start with a slap in the face. But sometimes the greatest battles aren't won with force. They're won with kindness, fought with understanding, and conquered with the unshakable belief that every person, no matter how lost, deserves a chance to find their way home. The deadly martial artist had indeed shocked everyone at Riverside High, just not in the way anyone expected.